Assalamu alaikum. So the lesson today is about absolute value inequalities. So today we are going to learn how to solve absolute value inequalities. But before we start talking about absolute value inequalities, so let me remind you about the key of the lesson today is the absolute value of an expression. So absolute value. So let me put just a reminder. So absolute value of any expression is a distance of that expression from zero. Absolute value of any expression is the distance of that expression from zero. So if we have, for example, an expression, so suppose this is an expression. So absolute value of that expression, in fact, is the distance of that expression from zero. And we know that the distance is depend of the sum of the expression. If the expression is greater than zero, and if the expression is less than zero. So if you wanna review your concept behind absolute value, so see the lesson about absolute value. So now let's talk about absolute value inequality. Those inequality. So absolute value inequality. One of the following. The square is an expression and a number expression is less than the number e, or value of that expression is less, or the absolute value of that expression is greater than e, or you can be one of those statements. So now we need to learn how to solve about the solution of the absolute value inequality. We need to understand what does it mean. Example, placement, example number. So what does it mean? Uh, what does it mean those two statements? What does it mean? So for example, for the first one, absolute value is less than 7. So if we translate absolute value in terms of distance, this means that the distance of that expression from 0 is less than 7. So when we're talking about the distance less than 7, so uh, the distance is from the 0 is from where? From the left or from the right? Because in the number line, 0 is almost like the middle of the number line. So it has two sides. You have the right side and the left side. So when we talk about the distance of that expression from 0 is less than 7, are you talking from the left side or the right side? Which means we have two locations. We have a location from the right and we have a location from the left. And those locations are equidistant because they are far from 0 by 7, both of them. And they ask me here to find out the expression such that the distance of that expression from 0 is less than 7. So where is the location of that distance? So if I choose, for example, a location here, the distance from here to here, is it the same thing as this one? Or is it less? No, it's not. If I choose a location here again, the distance from this location to 0, is it less than 7 or not? So obviously those locations will not work for me. So the best location for me is to pick something between those two location A and B. So in that case, if I choose my expression here, the distance from that expression to 0 is less than 7. And again here, the distance of that expression from 0 is less than 7. So the location of the expression that be less than 7 is between A and B. Now, in terms of number, what is A, what is B? So A is far from 0 on the right side. So which number far from 0 on the right side? Which is equal to 7. It's 7 itself because 7 is far from 0 by 7. And on the left side, minus 7 is far from 0 by 7 unit. So again, here will be minus 7. So when we have absolute value of an expression less than 7, in fact, is the same thing if we say the expression is between minus 7 and 7. So exactly what does it mean? And the same thing if I have the second case, for example, if I have absolute value of an expression greater than 5. Again, it means the distance of that expression from 0 is greater than 5. Now, in my number line, it's greater than 5. Like I say, again, I don't know where I'm talking about. Is it from the right or from the left? That means I have two choices. That means I have two locations that are from 0 by 5 unit. So those locations, I will name them again, like B and A, or U and V, whatever you choose. So this one is far from 0 by 5, and this one is far from 0 by 5. Now they want the distance of that expression to be greater than 5. So if I choose again an expression from here, this distance is not greater than 5, it's less than 5. As you see, it's less. So I cannot choose a location here. And the same thing here, if I choose a location here, it's not greater than 5. So the best location will be what? Outside of those value A and B. So the distance here is greater than 5 and the distance here is greater than 5. So what does it mean here? That means I will have my expression is greater than A and my expression here is less than B. So here we have the expression here is less than B, or we have the expression is greater than A. So to know what is A and B, so obviously on the left side we have the negative number and on the right side we have the positive number, and we have 5 is far from 0 from the right side by 5, and minus 5 is far from 0 on the left side by 5. So this means B will be minus 5 and A will be 5. So this expression or this statement means that the expression is less than minus 5, or the expression is greater than 5. So it's exactly what does mean this expression. Now, after you know the meaning of those, so let's give like a general conclusion about what we did. Then we go to the solution. So, conclusion, what we find out. So, if we have an absolute value of an expression is less than a number, then we have that expression is less than the number or greater minus that number. And we find out that absolute value of an expression is greater than a number, then we have either the expression is less than the minus of that number or the expression is greater than that number. So this is the main conclusion we end up with. Now, how to solve inequality? In fact, absolute value inequality. So absolute value inequality is the same thing as inequality. And in inequality that we have three types of inequality. We have contradiction inequality, we have identity inequality, and we have conditional inequality. So before we solve absolute value inequality, so in fact we need to make sure what type of statement we have. Is it contradiction statement, identity statement, or conditional statement? So before we solve an absolute value inequality, we need sorry that case, or we have identity, or we have a conditional. So now let me show you like a table that I made for the mean plot. So let me draw the table for you with the different type of okay, so here I'm gonna do the first type, which is absolute value is less than e. Here absolute value of the expression is less or equal than e. And here normally I should move this here because this is for the first case. I put it here. This one second case, and the third case here the absolute value of that expression is greater than e, and absolute value of the expression greater or equal than e. So here we are going to have the case of e, so the number e. So the first case, if we have e is less than 0. What does it mean for the first type? Does it mean absolute value is less than a negative number? Absolute value by definition is always positive because absolute value is the distance. The distance is always positive. So if our absolute value is less than a negative number, Obviously, this is a false statement, which means that I have a contradiction. So for the case when e is less than 0, what do we have? We have a contradiction. That means there is no solution. You don't need to solve anything here. And the same thing for the second case. We have a contradiction, which means there is no solution. But for the third case, it's not a contradiction. In fact, it is an identity. Why? Because I have absolute value of an expression is greater than a negative number. And we know that every positive number is greater than a negative number. So which means this is a true statement. So here we have what? We have identity. So we have identity. Identity means all number are solution. So this is identity. That means all number are solution. And the same thing here, we have absolute value is greater or equal than a negative number, which is a true statement. So here again we have identity. So again, all number are solution. So let me give you an example of each one. For example, here I have absolute value of 3x minus 5 is less than minus 5. So this is no solution. Or I have 2x plus 11 is less than. Here example, I can choose is greater than minus 3. So this is an identity that's or a solution. Sometimes and here for example I can use x minus 5 is greater or half. Uh, so for the second case is when e is equal to 0. This will value that expression is negative. This is, which is this is a contradiction again, which means no solution. But for the second case is different. We have absolute value is less or equal than 0, which means that absolute value or absolute value. The first is not true, so I will exclude it, the 0. So in that case, we have only one 0, and so the case here. So let me give you an example here for 5. So I have no choice except 5x minus 2. Inequality may have one solution, like in equations. Not all inequalities, and this is one of the case that you see there. For here, for the here, it's mean that absolute value is greater than 0. But we know equal to 0. Expression equal to 0. So all number are except when this expression is. So this is what you need. So for example, if I wanna see less than 0 for this greater than 0. This is true. This is true for all number. Instead of x, it will give me a 0. Definition of the absolute value is either greater or equal to 0. So that means I include all the number, but exclude the number that is to 0. 2. So number line, I put the 2 here, I exclude the 2, and I shade everything. In terms of union line, I just and I put open circle on that 2, which means that I exclude the 2 from the set of solutions. So what we'll have here, we have absolute value of that expression is greater or equal to 0. And this is the definition of the absolute value is always. So which means I have option. So all for the is I will pick those. For the third case, so we have when e is greater than 0. So in that case, we already know if e is greater than 0, that means what do we have? We have absolute value is between e and less than and greater than minus e. For example, if I have absolute value for x is less than 8, so I change this because 8 is positive. This becomes for x is less than 8 and greater than minus 8. And I solve for that one. And this is like, you see, this is a compound inequality. So you just need to go back to the previous lesson about how to solve a compound inequality, and you can solve this statement. So let me give you a short way how to solve it. So here I will make it into two inequality. Minus 8 is less than 4x, and 4x is less than 8. So now we divide both sides by 4 on both inequality. So I got minus 2 is less than x, and x is less than 2. So in my number line, so I put minus 2 here, I put 2 here, both open circle because they're not included in the solution. X is greater than minus 2 and less than minus 2, so the shared solution is here, so this will be my solution. For the second case, it's the same thing as the first case. The only difference is we include those two numbers. So we have absolute value is less or equal than e. That means I will have the expression is less than e or greater than minus e. So for example, if I choose 7x minus 9 is less than or equal to 3. So here I will have 7x minus 9 is less or equal than 3 and greater than minus 3. So another way how to do this, and do it only if you have number here. If you have variable, you use that way. So here I will add 9 on all the side. Then I will have here 6 is less than 7x, which is less the whole thing. then you're gonna have 6 over 7 is less than x is less than 12 over 7. How it look like? So x is between those two. This means 6 over 7 and 12 over 7 as shape. The third case, x is greater than e. So we are x absolute value e value is less than minus e. So you have to this way and solve for me to solve for value of 2x minus 9 greater. So I do it this way. 2x minus 11 or x minus 9 is less than minus 11. Then I solve each inequality by itself. So at the end, we end up having so this is minus 1, this is 10. I don't include those actually the greatest part. This will be my solution. For the last one, or those two numbers in the solutions. So here we have absolute value is greater or equal than e. For example, so if n is greater or equal than have 4x minus 11 or equal than minus 7. Each inequality, when I solve each inequality, I will end up having x here. I will a number line. I have 1, include those in my solution. It's greater than 9 half. This will be my solution. So I hope you understand the idea behind it. So the next linear absolute value inequality. So that you understand the idea behind and do so, it will help me a lot. Thank you for the video.